Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing a video showing my latest Beatles purchases. Haven't got too many today, just a few bits and pieces. But anyway, I'll get started with the Mono 6 Present Variation C of Please Please Me. And the difference between this and the other 6 presents is simply that the record has the Times New Roman font and the P1963s moved down a bit. I'm still looking for the variation B of the 6 press. I've got the variation A though. Now on to a pretty standard copy of Beatles for Sale stereo. This is the 8th pressing, which is sort of like the mid 80s. Just a regular 2-box pressing. Got a little rip there. That doesn't really matter. It's not a metal master or anything. It really is just a standard copy, so nothing too interesting there. Although this is a variation B of the Mono Loud Cut rubber sole, and the difference between this and the variation A of the Loud Cut is just that on the label it's got the Times New Roman font and the P1965 has been moved down to there. That's the only difference really, because the variation A just has a different font. Now, I wouldn't really say that was any rarer, because they're both about the same really. Anyway, now on to the variation A of the first press stereo of rubber sole. Now, the difference between this and the variation B, which is coming up next, is that, as you'll be able to see here, in the top right hand corner it's got a very large stereo, larger than usual. Anyway, if we look at the O on stereo, it's over the E here, and it's also over the E on side 2. Whereas, if you check out the variation B, on side 1, side 1, the O is over the E. However, on side 2, the O is over the N, not the E. And that is literally the way you tell between the two variations of the first press stereo. I mean, you can get quite a few versions of that where they're both over the N or they're both over the E, or they're past the E. So it can be a little hard to tell sometimes, but that's the general rule though. Now onto a collection of Beatles oldies. Now this is actually a Philips contract pressing from the late 70s. I've been looking for this one for quite a while actually, so I was pleased to be able to get a copy of this. Now it looks just like a regular 2-box pressing. Well, as I'll show you here. Right, it doesn't look like there's anything irregular until you notice that it's got a groove running all the way around the edge. And also, as well as that groove, if you look at the matrix numbers, they're highly unusual for a Beatles record, because not only does it have the usual YEX bit, but after that it's also got PCS, and then it's got the catalogue number after that. And that's not something that you normally find on parlophone pressings. And that's because that's how they do it in the Philips factories, with the groove and with the PCS. And these aren't like especially rare. They aren't really especially rare. They just don't crop up too often. So I was pleased to get one of these. I've seen a few before on eBay though. Now on to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is actually a Pathé Marconi French edition from 1973. Absolutely nothing special. You see these French presses all the time. And it's got the French 2-box label, which is the same as the British ones. Oh. Yeah. It's got EMI Records Limited perimeter text, though as you can see the spacing's all irregular on all these song titles. Massive spaces between the letters, and the 33 and a third looks different too. But other than that, it looks pretty similar. It's the French colour vinyl copies that are hard to get your hands on, because some of them go for like amazing amounts, like purple vinyl Sgt. Pepper's, go for hundreds. Anyway, this is another French Pathé Marconi record. This is Yellow Submarine this time though, and this has got the black lines on the back and has no flip backs. There is actually something interesting about this record, because, as you may know, in England, Yellow Submarine was originally released in mono in 1969, but it wasn't reissued in mono until 1982, or well, 1981, with the mono masters then. And this was in 1973, so obviously there wouldn't have been any recent mono thing. Although, however, it says at the bottom here that, well, it's in French obviously. I'm just trying to get the focus on that. But it says though you can also get it in mono, which I've actually looked this up, and obviously that's a mistake because you couldn't get it in mono then. Certainly not on this French label. They didn't release it in mono, so yeah. And also this has a groove on it for some reason. Not really sure why. And the other French ones don't, but Now on to a Abbey Road present. This is on red vinyl actually. Now the back of the sleeve says manufactured and distributed by EMI Australia, so it seems to be an Australian copy, not a French one like you see a lot of the coloured vinyl issues. I'm guessing this is fairly modern. I mean, the whole thing looks brand new, and the record looks really nice on the red vinyl. It's not from the same series as like the green vinyl French ones and that, obviously because it's Australian, but it still looks just as nice, I think. And you can get quite a few different colours like yellow and orange and all that type of stuff. Now on to a copy of the Beatles 20 Greatest Hits. I just got a copy of this fairly recently, just so I've got a copy, because I'd always put it off because it was easy to get. So I just thought I'd get a copy. And when I go to look at which pressing it is, because you can get a couple of different pressings of this too, I find out it's actually a transition press, which is typical. I'll show you how it's the transition press. As some of you out there may know, on 2-box pressings you can get all sorts of different starts to the rim text, like the gramophone, EMI, or right to the producer. And anyway, there's 2 different types of all right to the producer you can get. You can get the early one, which at the top bit here has public performance, broadcasting, copying, and hiring. Or you can get the later version of the all right to the producer, which instead has, as you can see at the top, unauthorised copying, hiring, renting, public performance. So you can see the word order is slightly different there. Now, normally, this should only have one or the other on both sides. It shouldn't have one of each. So, I have accidentally discovered a weird crossover pressing. Although, then, I'm sure it won't be worth anything. I mean, at the end of the day, it's only 20 greatest hits, you know what I mean? Unless it was some sort of like promo autographed by the Beatles, mint, sealed copy, you know what I mean? Obviously, it was something then, but it's like, don't matter what's wrong with it, it's still not going to be worth very much. It's just interesting though. Now on to the Beatles ballads. same type of story with this, you know, just got a copy, so I've got a copy. Although this unfortunately has no interesting features about it as such. It's just a second pressing, and you can tell that this is a second pressing because the original was released with EMI Records Limited perimeter text, whereas this one has all rights of the producer. Yeah, so the original will have EMI Records Limited across there. Now on to the Beatles featuring Tony Sheridan. I don't know if you can remember, in one of my previous videos I showed an export copy of this, which was on the Orange Pickwick label rather than the Orange Contour label. Although that one didn't have the British flag on like this, because the export releases have this special cover, but with the Union Jack on, British import. So I was able to get a copy of this, except it had a third pressing inside rather than the Pickwick one, so did the old switcheroo, and now I've got the right record inside there. So that's really good. You can actually get two versions of this Union Jack. Two versions of this Union Jack. This is the one you see more often. However, in like Commonwealth countries, it's only like a half Union Jack, just like vertical Union Jack. So, although I think that's actually pretty hard to guess because I've never seen one of them. It took us a while to find one of these actually. Now this is a slightly more interesting piece. The Beatles First. Now this has got exactly the same tracks on as the Beatles' early years, Beatles featuring Tony Sheridan, because that's what it is. It is the Beatles with Tony Sheridan. It's all that type of stuff. Except this isn't like a budget reissue like they are. This is the actual genuine original British album from the 60s. So this is how it was originally released with these recordings. It's on Polydor, which was the original Hamburg label. And all the same tracks on. And it's got a nice big write-up as well. And you can tell it's 60s as well because printed and made by Ernest J. Day & Co. And on the inside, I'm guessing obviously this is going to be a brand new inner sleeve. But anyway, as you can see, it's on the Polydor label, made in England. And I think it's nice to actually have the original LP rather than all the individual budget ones. And yeah, you don't see this too often. There is one or two on eBay, I think. But I was able to get this for quite a low price at a local record store actually, so I'm happy with that. And last but by no means least is this stereo Portuguese pressing of Magical Mystery Tour from the early 80s. It's not like in the best condition, it's just more for the obscurity of it as stereo. Although fortunately we got a free gatefold cover out of it, so can't complain there. Unfortunately though, as you can see, the booklet's lost. It's not in the side compartment either. It's totally gone. But you know, not the end of the world. Although the main interesting thing about this album is that the record is not on the Apple label, but it is on the black and yellow label, which is unusual for this album. I mean, obviously it's not a British pressing, you know, it's Portuguese, but it's unusual that they would use this. And I'll tell you something else. It's got a spelling mistake. Can you spot it anywhere on one of the song titles? In case you couldn't, look how mystery spelt on Magical Mystery Tour. M-I instead of M-Y. Magical Mystery Tour. And I don't know if it's spelt like that on the cover as well. Have a look. Nope. It's spelt correctly inside the cover, but not on the record. Well, that concludes this Beatles vinyl update. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.